It's May 31st, 2021. This is Roqe. She is an Iranian-Canadian fashion designer, stylist, and entrepreneur who says she wants to show the world the true power and uniqueness of Middle Eastern women. And she's doing it with her growing brand La Femme Roje. But Rojan Hooshyar is also intent on doing fashion in a sustainable and ethical way. She joins us from Vancouver, coming up. But first, he is an Italian writer and documentarian who has in recent years developed a particular profound passion for Persians. Antonello Sacchetti joins me from Rome to talk about his mad love for all things Iranian, plus your letters about our series looking back at the Pahlavi Dynasty. This is Conversations from, to, and about the Iranian diaspora. I'm Jian. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode 114 of Roqe. Hope you're all keeping well wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Salam Dustan Aziz. We are on an ongoing mission to build a new audio-visual encyclopedia of encyclopedia, bachaha. Encyclopedia chi mishe?
Dairatul Ma'arif.
Yeah, that. First of all, could you speak in a little more distinctly? I couldn't understand what you say. Say it again.
Dairatul Ma'arif.
Oh my God.
Let's stick to encyclopedia.
Yeah. Could we not say encyclopedia?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
a hard word.
Yeah, no one uses that. Don't even know.
You know daira?
Daira.
Okay.
Diary?
No, like
a circle.
Yeah. Daire ma'arif, like danastani ha.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Let's just
Did you know that, Captain Reza?
Yeah, I heard that.
It's just us, Jian. Let's face it.
I mean, so if the encyclopedia has a name, like Encyclopedia Britannica, what do you say?
Dairatul Ma'arif Britannica.
Oh my God. People have had lunch, and people have gone on a trip and come back by the time he's finished saying that word.
Do you actually use that word?
It's used quite a lot, actually. It's pretty common.
Wow, okay.
Jesus.
We won't be using that word
It's like, it's one of those languages, like, you know how when you don't speak a language and the person's like, you're like, what did they say? And they said, hello. And you're like, what? It's like, but I thought I'd speak Farsi.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this now? There's always some word to humiliate us, right?
Always.
I thought I would say, what's encyclopedia? And he would go, encyclopedia.
That's what I say too.
Daira Mahrajan. What was it? Daira Chizos.
Okay. You know Arif the singer?
Yes.
Okay, and Daire.
Is he involved in this? He sang at my parents' wedding before.
So imagine Daire and Arif.
Daire, Arif.
Put a tamal in the between.
Oh God, screw this.
Daire, Tamal, Arif.
Oh yeah.
The Britannica.
Good for you.
Oh
You
my
retained
God.
it. I have no chance.
Listen, yes, I did not retain it. I just, all I know is RF. Not only was he a great singer, is he a great singer and performer? He's an encyclopedia. I mean, he's the man behind the diary. RF.
If me and you went to Iran and spent a year there, we would remember this stuff. But there's just no
we
chance.
wouldn't. Not that word. I don't think that word. I mean, people don't even use encyclopedias anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's true.
They're like Instagram.
Wikipedia.
Yeah. Oh, what's Wikipedia? Is it Wikipedia? No.
Daira
Islam. Arif. It's Daira vegan. It's always like some famous
musical.
singer. Yeah.
That'll be how they remember it.
Daire, Hadiye,
Gugush.
Gugush. Okay, where were we? The show hasn't started yet. We are on an ongoing mission to build a new audio-visual
دایره المعارف.
It's the fact that he says it so. And you know what bugs me is like I was like, "Hey, Shaya, what is?" He knows that word. I probably don't. I mean, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So then he says it like really fast
No.
and slurs it, you know,
No, دایره
just so that you and I. Because I died.
Yeah, I mean it's the same for me to pronounce encyclopedia. It's hard for me. Encyclopedia.
Well, that's why I'm saying if we were in Iran, if like put us in Shaya's case, if we were in a foreign country, well, foreign as in like it's not our first language, we would remember that word.
You know how you remember encyclopedia?
No.
N, and then Bruce Springsteen. Then pedia. RF. I love it.
Did your parents enforce speaking Persian at home?
No, we didn't
Okay.
speak. No. I mean, first of all, as we've learned, my father was speaking something that was not any language. He was teaching me like some old version of Persian, Arabic, like street cool
interesting.
language. I don't know what my dad was.
That's cute.
Actually, I just remembered that دایره المعارف has a new word. Actually, you
okay.
can say دانشنامه.
Okay,
Okay, that's
actually that's what I thought it was.
دانشنامه.
I knew it was a word. Danishname. I know Danishname Britannica.
Yes.
That makes that's easier.
Yeah, that's much easier.
So thanks, Shaya.
Because Dayatul Ma'arif is Arabic, is an Arabic word.
That's why I
right?
didn't recognize it. I don't listen to
But
these Arabic words.
Khamas is a word you recognize.
Listen, we're on a bunch of different platforms. We're coming to you on rookmedia.com. That's our website where it houses all those platforms. So you can just go, you find all our episodes, our guests, rookmedia.com. Or if you want to head straight to one of our platforms, Spotify, SoundCloud, Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, CastBox, and Telegram. And as I usually say, if you want to see some visuals with what you're hearing with Rook, switch over to YouTube. And if you like your Rook descriptions and bulletins in Persian as well as English, check us out on Telegram. Rojan Hooshyar, coming up in about 45 minutes from now. She's this wunderkind fashion designer based in Vancouver now, and the woman behind the brand La Femme Roje. I love how ambitious she is. She's not only doing these lines that integrate Middle Eastern colors and flavors and fashions with the Western, but doing it with a focus on local production, environmental ethics, and a vegan approach. Not a vegan approach, but a vegan approach.
With a superstar singer vegan.
Also, perhaps with a vegan approach. I mean, I don't know what his predilection for design was, but so she will be joining us. Looking forward to talking to Rojan, and in just a few minutes, we're going to go to Rome. I'm looking forward to this to speak to Antonello Sacchetti. He's quite a character. I've checked out a bunch of his podcasts and his writing, although most of it is in Italian, but he does some in English as well. He's an Italian journalist, a blogger, a documentarian, and a businessman who has he was so taken by Iran on his first visit in 2005 that he's developed this deep passion for all things Persian and written 5 books about Iran and Iranians. So we'll get to Antonello Sacchetti, who's, I think, standing by right now. He's in Rome. We'll get to him in a few minutes. Let me do this formally. Hello, the fabulous Kian.
Hi, Jian.
Hello, Captain Reza.
Hello, sir.
And hello, Groovy Shaya.
Hi, Azza.
Nice to have you all back on air after doing our series last week, which I was doing solo there about the Pahlavi Dynasty, and we've been getting a bunch of reaction to that, a 3-part series. I have to say, my mom, I got a shout out to my mom. My mom is the best. You know,
She is the
I mean, I know
best.
everybody thinks their mom is the best,
She's a
but
sweetheart.
she's really the best, and she listens to every episode of Rook. You know, like right away. Like she'll sometimes, and she doesn't want to bother me, but she'll, like, if we're a bit late, you know, she'll be like, just checking in. I see that there's nothing, you know. So she texted me like 3 a.m. or something. Like, she listened right away to all 3 parts of the series.
Wow.
Isn't that lovely?
Wow.
And then she breaks it down and she says, when this person said this, and I just thought that was so
You
nice.
have a great mom.
So I was texting with my mom, and then there's Shaya.
What does Shaya say?
I was texting with Shaya on the weekend, and I just want to mention that, you know, texting, you think that Shaya speaks kind of slowly, right? Sort of charming. But you know when you're texting someone and you can see that the other person is typing?
Yeah.
Right? So I'll be like, yeah, what's up, Shaya? And then I'll see, like the thing is like typing. I mean, Shaya takes, seeing that he is typing on WhatsApp it's like an exercise in like vipassana meditation. Like you're staring at a wall, waiting for it to be over and hoping there's some like
is
payoff.
It poetry? Is he like
No, it goes on for. I mean, it's exactly like his word for encyclopedia.
Oh.
It's like you're waiting, and then it'll be like. Hello, Azizam. And it'll be like, what have you been doing the whole time? Because, it's that thing where when you see the typing, you go, like, we talk to each other on WhatsApp. So you see typing and you go, oh, something's imminent. I have to wait.
Yeah.
I can't move on. Otherwise, if you don't see anything, you go, okay, I'll go on with my day. Yeah. And then Shaya will text back or something. Now, there's always immediate, he's on it, but you're just sitting there waiting, I don't know what it is you're doing.
It's hard. No, I mean typing in English. It's hard. It takes a lot of time for me. But it's getting better and better. I promise.
Right. It's weird too because I noticed in Persian you leave voice messages for people.
Yes.
But you like to type in English.
I think if I leave them voice message, it might be longer because I have to say Jian, and so
you're doing a good impression of yourself. Now I feel bad. I didn't know it was about about the English. I thought because honestly, Shai, when the text finally arrives, and we're talking 15 minutes in, it's like 3 words. Like I don't know what you've been working on. Your English isn't bad. It's like you're eating a sandwich and you type one word and then you stop and it just keeps saying typing.
He's got a dilemma. He's always undecisive. It's like, should I say this? Now he deletes it again and he types again.
Now I feel bad. That's sweet. I appreciate that if it's a learning curve with the English, I mean, certainly I can't type back in Farsi. It would take much longer.
Oh God,
you would see typing for hours,
Yeah, sometimes while I'm writing text, I go to dictionary, find a word and come back, and it takes a lot of time.
That's so awesome.
You go to the
diarrhea.
No. I was going. You go to RF's diary. No, I was. No, the
RF's diary. That's gold.
Well, no, the new one.
Danishname.
The Danishname. I was thinking Shenasname, which is something else. The Danishname. Yeah. Danishname. Right. Exactly.
So you see, we're both on a learning curve. Me and Jian on the Persian language, and Shaya on English. Yeah.
Hey, if you're loving this riveting conversation, you can become a patron. Listen, the content. If this is your first time tuning in, it's really good content. Go back, listen to the Pahlavi series. Forget the last 15 minutes, please. Just listen to the Pahlavi series, and there was smart content there, and you'll. And of course, if you are a regular listener of Rook, we do appreciate, lately we've been getting a few more people becoming patrons, and it's really nice. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you. And, everyone says, don't mention me on the air because they have the option. They say they're too modest, everybody. I'm ready to mention the names. But so thank you to those of you guys who've become patrons in recent days. We really appreciate it. It is about, us keeping this going. You go to rookmedia.com, the support us button up there, and for $5 or $10 a month you become a Rook patron, and we promise that will mean something as well in terms of our delivery to you of some sort of gift or newsletter or something fun. We're going to figure it out. In the coming days on Rook, I wanted to mention Nima Nazeri in the Rook studio for our Thursday show this week. Really looking forward to that. Very funny guy. If he's a star, his mother is the superstar. If you've been watching his Instagram channel, I mean, it's very funny stuff. Nima Nazeri, the comedian, the actor, coming up. Nikki Najumi, who is a legendary artist, first in Iran, and then he's been in New York for some 4 decades, since basically being exiled. And it's an honor to have him on the show. I guess he's in his 70s now or something.
Yes,
maybe late
close
70s.
To 80.
Yeah, and he is. But I know he's sharp, and I know he's still working hard, and has recently had a couple of distinctions, global distinctions, named one of the top artists. Actually, he was on a list of the top living artists of Iran, top 5 living artists of Iran. That was actually a survey done in Iran, which was interesting. Wow. So he's coming up. Hila Sadiqi, the young poet, she will be here and or on the line from Tehran. And in Roqe Studio, Sahar Golshani, another very funny presence on online these days, and she's got a very, very important story to tell about the way she grew up, and she's very, very open and direct about it. Her podcast and is called Unfiltered. If you know her work, you know she doesn't mince words, and she's also very funny. I'm looking forward to hearing her story and having her amazing presence here in the Roqe Studio. Sahar Golshani in the coming days on Roqe as well. We've got letters about the Pahlavi series, right?
Yeah. Quite a mixed bag.
Okay.
I mean, listen, when it comes to Iranian politics, you know you're going to get some letters.
Even if it's an assessment by academics
exactly.
of the legacy of the late Shah of Iran, you're going to get different opinions. So we will hear those, and we'll get to letters at the end of the show. Rojan Hooshyar in about 45 minutes, but first. He is an Italian business communications guy who has, in recent years, developed a particular profound passion for Iranians. Indeed, Antonello Sacchetti is a journalist, blogger, and documentarian who was so taken by Iran and Persian culture after his first visit in 2005 that he returned right away and has now been to Iran almost 20 times. He has parlayed his passion into 5 books about Iran and Iranians, including The Tehran Boys, Persian Mysteries, and Trans-Iran. He also has a regular podcast in Italian about Iran, various documentaries, an Iranian news and culture website and blog called Diruz, and social media videos and interviews with members of the Iranian-Italian community. Antonello has gone so deep into this interest, it is not his day job, by the way, that he now appears with some regularity on Italian television as an Iran expert. Right now, Antonello Sacchetti joins me from Rome, Italy today. Ciao. Hello, sir.
Ciao, everybody. Salam. خوبی؟
خوبم. فارسی هم حرف میزنی ها؟
بله. فقط کمی فارسی بلدم.
Yeah, کمی فارسی بلد. It's great to talk to you. I am so interested in your journey. You, let me get this straight. You're an Italian man with no Persian lineage or Iranian blood, but your passion has become all things Iran and Iranian. Do you feel like you're an adopted Iranian at this point? Are you part of us?
Oh, I hope so. It would be a great honor for me. Thank you very much. I hope so. But you know that every time I go to Iran, people ask me, "But you are Italian? Are you sure?" I remember that a guy some years ago told me, "Well, but I know, but your family is from Iran." No, sir.
You mean because of the way you look?
Oh, yeah.
What is it about the way you look that you think makes people think you're Iranian?
Oh, I think maybe this part of me.
Your eyebrows?
You know, yeah.
I think the short order answer is I'm very handsome. That's why I look Iranian. That's all you need to say.
Thank you. It's very kind from you.
Listen, I want to get into all that you have learned about Iran and some of your views about our community and the future of the Iranian people from your perspective in Rome as an Italian. But let's hear the story about how this began for you. So from what I understand, about 25 years ago, you were a university student in Rome, and a girl stops you and starts talking to you. What's the story there?
Oh, yeah. I was just in the middle of the town. I was just in the middle of Rome, and a girl stopped me in the street and started to talk to me in Persian. And I said, "I'm sorry, but I don't understand. I don't understand you. I'm sorry. What are you saying?" And she said, "Where are you from?" "From Rome." "Are you sure?" "Oh, yeah, I'm from Rome." And then she told me, "Because you look like Iranian, I was sure that you were Iranian." But it's just a story. I mean, it's something very curious. But then I was very, very interested in Iran, its history, its art. I read the Shahnameh by Ferdowsi, and so I just want to discover this country, this culture. And so I decided, okay, now it's time to go. And it was 2005.
Okay, let me get to that. First of all, though, I mean, given that she's had such an impact on your life, how fabulous was this woman? I mean, what that you're still talking about her 20 years later. What impression did she leave on you?
No. I did never see so again. just that time. It's one of the few Iranians.
Because I think
so
you're married, but I don't think it's to the woman that spoke Farsi to you 20 years ago, right?
No. Yeah. Okay.
So, Antonello, before we get into what you going to Iran, just give me some background. What did you're this Italian kid. You're in Rome. What did you know about Persian culture and Iranians before you met this woman, but also before you ended up taking a trip to Iran? What did you know growing up in Italy about Iran?
We at the school we study the old Persians and the Great Empire and so on. Then when I was a child, it was the time of the revolution in Iran. So every day I saw the TVs and Khomeini and so on and all the war between Iran and Iraq. Then I worked for a while for Amnesty International, for the press office of Amnesty International. So I knew the situation of human rights and civil rights in Iran and so on. And I have an idea of this country. But then, in the 90s, all the stuff about the blogger from Iran, boys that decided to open the blogs on Iran. And I remember that I met a guy whose nickname was Kalantar. And he was a very, very fun boy, very, very smart boy. We were in contact, and I write to him, and he described me the situation, the political situation in Iran, and so on. So when after a couple of years, I decided, okay, maybe now it's time to see directly.
Yes.
And just some months before my first travel, I met in Rome Azar Nafisi, the writer.
Oh,
it was very, very kind. We had a conversation at the American Institute here in Rome. She was guest for a month or two, and I had an interview with her. And we were talking about her book and the situation. And in a couple of weeks, there was the election, and the election of which Ahmadinejad won for the first time.
Yes.
And so after that shock, I mean, the first impact through Mrs. Nafisi, I decided, okay, maybe it's time to go.
It sounds like there was a number of different moments in your life that were pointing you towards this being something that you should follow, some gut instinct that you should follow, because it's in 2005, let alone today, for a guy sitting in Rome, there's a lot of options of places you can travel to. It's an interesting choice to decide to go to Iran. Let me ask you about that first trip, because obviously it was so pivotal. It leads to what you've been doing for the last, since then, for the last 16 years, which is very involved in various media around Iranians and Persian culture. What were your first impressions, Antonello, of Iranians and Iran when you first landed there?
It was a great shock, but a positive shock, because in a sense you are afraid of something. People said, where are you going to? Are you crazy? To Iran? And it was just 2 years after the war, the United States that attacked Saddam Hussein in Iraq, and so on. And for many Italian people, all the Middle East is a place of war, of terrible things,
yes,
and of enemies. After 9/11, even here, even in Italy, a lot of people started to look at Muslim people and to Islamic countries as dangerous countries, as enemies. And I decided, no, I don't think so. I don't think that the people are our enemies. Ideology is our enemies, states and other things. But I mean, not people, not every common people. In those years, I traveled a lot in Egypt, Tunisia, Turkey. It was just a moment to discover
sure,
people, countries in the Mediterranean Sea, and so I decided to look over to go more to eastern countries. And so, but it was Iran. I just decided in 2 or 3 years before that I want to look to see Iran.
So despite the negative and dark stereotypes that existed, particularly in the backdrop of post 9/11 saber rattling, you arrive in Iran and you say you experience what you say is a positive shock. What was the positive shock?
A positive shock because people in the street every time, every second, stop at you and say, "Welcome. Where are you from? What do you think about my country? How can I help you? Do you want to come with us? Do you want to come to dinner to my house?" It was real, for real. I mean, in my third trip, I met a family on the flight, and then they came to my hotel some days later, and they wanted to take me to the house, and a beautiful dinner, a beautiful night with them, and we are still in contact. And also, I mean, country is very, very beautiful. It's gorgeous. Yes. The night I arrived in Esfahan, I couldn't believe that it was so empty, that place, that square at night. I mean, it's incredible. Or in Persepolis, you say, where are tourists? Why? We all doing the same things, maybe in a lot of towns in Europe that are beautiful, interesting. But this is another world. It's great. It's fantastic.
Did it feel on some level like, I know for me, there's certain places I've been to in the world. It makes no sense. I mean, because it's the other side of the world and I may not have any roots there, but suddenly I feel a sense of home. Did you feel somehow, yeah. I mean, I have to expect that your answer is going to be yes, because only 2 months later, after that first trip, you go right back to Tehran. Is that right?
All right. It's right. It's right. I wanted to get back because I didn't know a lot of things. I just stayed in Tehran just a few days, and I want to learn more about the capital and more everyday life. And so I found a family that invited me, and 2 months later, I was a guest in their house, and we spent a couple of time preparing Nowruz, my first Nowruz in Tehran, and it was very, very beautiful. And I mean, I feel at home. I feel at home in these places with these people in the streets, in the night. I traveled. A while. I saw countries in South America and in Europe and North Africa, but nothing is like Iran. Nothing is like being in Iran among Iranians.
Those first trips, Antonello, lead to you writing your first book about Iran and Iranians called The Boys from Tehran. And you were curious about underground youth culture. So we're situating this in the mid first decade of the 2000s. What did you find about underground youth culture in Tehran that surprised you, perhaps?
What surprised me a lot was the curiosity of Iranian young people. I was trying to discover something about them. I was asking something, but I discovered that they knew a lot about my country and my culture and even my politics, even my politicians, even my books, my writers. One day I was in a bookstore, Shari Kitab, and we had a discussion with a lot of people about Iran and Italy cultural relationships about Iran and Italy. And there was some guys, some students, some universitarian students that know everything about Italy. They asked me something about Italian philosopher, writer that even people here in Italy don't know now. But he know everything, and he was a student of it was an engineer faculty in Tehran. So I mean, this is very, very interesting. This was this country that we saw from Italy as an old country because there are the mullahs, the ayatollahs, and so all these old people. But then it was the 70% of Iranians that were under 35, and they have all a life, a style. This is everything different from the ideas we have here in Italy about Iranians.
Yes. And it's curious because, as I understand it, you then go back to Italy, you go back to Rome, and realized that, unbeknownst to you before, that there is actually a sizable Iranian community that you had not known before in Rome. What does the Iranian community in Rome think of Antonello Sacchetti, the Italian guy who's into all things Persian?
But maybe it would be better to ask them. But I know. No, I have a lot of friends here, and a lot of people that I really thanks because they appreciate my work, my ideas. Sometimes you find someone who think, who are you? Why do you are so interested in my country, in my politics? Who are you? You are a spy. You are something from the government. And,
right. Right.
I had some troubles because there are politician groups that are not so friendly with us. But in particular, the most part of people I know is very, very, very kind. And also we started to have a Nowruz parties, Charshambeh Suri parties here in Rome. It's something very, very beautiful and strange to have a Charshambeh Suri just in front of St. Peter Church. But it was very, very beautiful.
Just to get it on the record, you're saying you're not a spy for the regime?
But maybe.
And if you were, would you even tell us? I don't think so. So the jury is out.
Sure.
I understand you started to then organize group tours to Iran. Who would go on these tours, and where would you take them?
People that decide to go to Iran are very interested in Iran, in this country. After the nuclear deal in 2015, there was a boom of tourism to Iran, and a lot of people in Italy wanted to go there because it was something new. It was very new, and then Egypt became very dangerous. Syria was in the middle of a war. Yeah. In some other countries in the Middle East became no zone, no off limits, and so a lot of people started to discover Iran. Unfortunately, last year was very, very, very bad for this because now we cannot travel. But I think there is a lot of people that wanted to know Iran, and every person that I met that went to Iran said that it was a wonderful travel, a wonderful tour, wonderful place to see.
You've been to Iran more, you said 15 to 20 times now, like you've lost count. Yeah. You don't even know how many times. Where are your favorite places? I know you mentioned Esfahan earlier. Are there particular places that you go each time? Do you have a favorite coffee shop in Tehran, or a favorite lake that you go to or something? I mean, where if well, you could take me for an example, since I haven't been there since I was 5 years old as a little kid.
Okay.
Where would, if I said I'm going to Iran tomorrow, where would you take me?
Firstly, I'll take you to Tajrish Square in Tehran because this is the place I love. It's the place of Meidune Tajrish. It's a place in the northern part of the town, and it's a mix of. There is a bazaar, but an authentic bazaar, real bazaar, not for tourism. Is people went there to shop, to buy foods and so on. There was the Imamzadeh. There was the mall, just some meters below Antar, and there was a bookshop. I mean, it's Iran, a little Iran there. It's something of everything, of the tradition and modernity. But this is Tehran. Another town that I love very much is Yazd. Yazd. I think that in the last years, the center of the town now is very, very beautiful because I think there was a work on old buildings and so on. And it's a small town. It's not so big as Tehran or Shiraz or Mashhad or Isfahan. And then Kashan. Kashan is very, very beautiful. All the traditional houses in Kashan. I think if you go to Iran, you have to spend almost a night in a traditional house in Kashan. It's a dream night.
Wow. Where are the people the most welcoming?
Oh, I think in Yazd.
Yes.
I know that people in Yazd are very traditional, very Sunnati, but they are also so comfortable. Everyone was always smiling. So I don't know. I like them very much, and very young, very curious about you, about people. I like them very, very much.
You, Antonello, you've now written a number of books about Iran, and you're considered, as I said in the introduction, an expert on Iranians. You appear on Italian television when networks are looking for someone to speak about issues involving Iran and Iranians. Do you, in terms of the documentary work you do, when you go and interview Iranians on the streets, etc., or officials, do you feel that you get a certain access by being non-Iranian because you don't have the baggage of being perceived as being with any political side or faction?
Sure. No, I'm lucky in this. I have this opportunity because I'm not Iranian. I have the opportunity to talk as I think, and I'm not involved in political games there. And people like to share their opinions. I mean, to know what I think about their condition, their situation. I mean, for sanctions, for example, or politics, or something that happened, just like last year for Soleimani killings, or the disaster of the Ukrainian airplane, and so on. And I think this is I'm lucky to do this, but it's not so easy when I have to talk about it in Italy, because sometimes broadcast media, Italian media, wanted that I say something they think. If you are not so decided to go against Iran, to say no, it's everything wrong, everything Iranian government decides or say is wrong, they decided to maybe it's better to talk with another one. I have my opinion. I mean, I try to think, to see a thing and say what I see. And
interesting. You feel like there's a certain ideological position that Italian media has taken on Iran in some cases, and if you don't toe that line, if you say something too positive, they don't like having you there as a voice. That's interesting.
Sure. For example, I don't like nuclear power, nuclear energy, and of course I don't like nuclear weapons. But if I say, okay, but why all this stuff, all this Iranian nuclear, and you have nothing to say about the Israeli one? Why? Okay.
Yeah, I can see that's going to be problematic for you. Yeah, but the other thing is that when you're talking about the Iranian community, I mean, it makes me a bit sad, to be honest. But it's not a new idea, which is that we being Iranians, if I can generalize, these are of course generalizations, but that we in some cases tend to trust the outsider more than we would a fellow Iranian. In other words, you seem to be saying, if I could read between the lines, as a documentarian, they will trust you to speak to you because you don't have a horse in the race, or you don't seem like there's an angle for a monetary benefit the same way they would in an Iranian doing the same job.
Well, but I think they understand them. I can understand them because it's not so easy. Here in Rome, there are Iranian people that live here since 50 years. They just ran from the Shah after the Mossadegh, the coup against Mossadegh, and then someone who arrived after the revolution, and they passed a very, very, very hard time, very bad time here, and so I understand that for them. It's important to understand who are you and why do you want to talk about Iran, would want to know, to meet them. For example, after the Green Wave, after the 2009 elections,
yes,
there was a lot of Italian politicians that tried to look as the defender of the Iranian people. It was just in a week an army of Iranian experts, people that even maybe don't know where Iran is.
Opportunistically, yes.
Sure. And a lot of I knew very young people, students here, that they fear for a interview for something that they said with these people, and they had no fear, no sense of opportunity to to quote their names on so on. And so I can understand them. It was a problem. It was very bad time.
Yes, although my point was that they trust you sometimes more than they do other Iranians.
Maybe just because they know that I live here. I don't have a business.
Correct. Yeah. You're not making and you don't do. There's no financial gain for your exploration of Iran, right? You're not doing this for money.
No money. No. No power.
Antonello, looking at your website, diruz.it.italy, there's a wide range of information there. There's a wide range of things you cover, from cultural elements like food or something to, Bani Sadr, the president at the time of the revolution, to Reza Shah and the coup 53. How do you curate and choose what you're going to cover on your website and podcast?
Well, it all started with my curiosity, and so I'm I love very, very much history and contemporary history, and so in this sense, Iran is a precious cave. I mean, there are a lot of things and stories from Iran. But when we started this podcast last year, for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I found something to talk about with friends, maybe, for example, about movies, cinema, because in Italy, Iranian cinema is very, very popular. When Kiarostami and Panahi had their first success outside Iran, it was in Italy. And so we started to talk about this. Then, after 2 or 3 weeks, people started to ask me, why don't you talk about this issue? Why don't you talk about, can I come and talk about my book, my research? And now in Italy, there are a lot of young students, young teachers at the university that are very, very, very good, because they have learned Persian very well, and they started to work in research in Iran. And there are some examples, great, very, very, very interesting. For example, a young researcher did a research about the old city, the old Jewish city in old Tehran. It was amazing, and she made we made a podcast last year. A lot of people follow us because it's very, very interesting, and they are able to go there to talk with people and to translate books directly from Persian to Italian and vice versa. And so this is very, very new for us, and it's very, very good, very, very useful.
You mean they're in Italian translated from Persian as opposed to translated from the English. So that's so interesting and heartening to hear. What do other Italians say to you about your passion for things Persian? You work in communications for an Italian business society. You work in the Internet and Press Office. Do they know that you have this other life as a passionate follower of Iranian culture? And what do they or your other Italian friends think of it?
They ask me always two things. The first one is, are you converted to Islam? No. And second is, your wife is Iranian? No, she's Italian. But I'm quite strange for them. Yes.
I didn't actually realize that your wife is Italian. Does she come to Iran with you? Has she?
Twice.
Has she caught the bug? Is she now infected with the Persian, seduced by the Persian culture as well?
Oh, a little bit. At the beginning, she was quite afraid. Why this patient? Then the first time, I remember that her first day in Iran we were at Golestan, in the garden of Golestan, and suddenly I saw a family group that came and started to talk with her. And suddenly I saw that she was started crying. And so I asked her, why? What's happened? She said, well, but people are lovely as you ever told. People that are asking me my number, asking me what I think about this country, what I'm doing in my life, and so on. And she was surprised, and it was very, very beautiful scene. When you came back, people are lovely. And also, I took my parents to Iran some five years ago. And it was very beautiful. Now my father is 86, so I mean,
what did they say about Iran?
They were enthusiastic. This was a great travel for them. They made a classical tour, and then we went there during Ramadan. So it was very particular, the atmosphere, because people at night went out and have dinner in the park. Sometimes my father say, unfortunately, now I'm too old to come back to Iran, but I love it.
Antonello, have you figured out, I mean, I was going to say, can you put it into words? But of course you can, because you're a journalist and a writer. What is it about Persian culture that most appeals to you?
I think Iranian people. I always say that the best monument, the best things to see and to discover in Iran is are Iranian people. It's something that's very strange to say. People always think that Italian people are lovely, Italian people are friendly, and so on. And yes, it is. I mean, maybe we are quite warm, but Iranian are other things. It's another word. I mean, it's something that have to do with tarof, maybe, but it's always very, very beautiful. This is a poetry in life. It's a style. There is a Persian style, a Persian way of life. I mean, and also I think also that there is some link between us, between our heritage from the Roman Empire and the Persian one.
Well, I always grew up feeling like there are some similarities between Iranians and Italians. Our passion, our zeal, our desire for great food, and our family values. Sure. Do you believe that we have a bunch in common? Iranians and Italians.
Oh yeah, and especially people from Rome and Iranian. There is an ironic taste in living, a sense of we just saw everything in history after 2,000 years of history, and so we have maybe sometimes cynical view upon life, upon history. But some years ago, I was talking about with an Iranian friend about the President Trump in the United States, and I said, I'm very scared about him. I'm very worried about things for Iran in this period, and he told me very, very quietly, we had in Iran, we had Mongols, Arabs, Turkish invasions. We have 3,000 years of history. Or even Mr. Trump will pass away. We will go away.
Yes, when you take the long view, it certainly makes these things look like a blip. You've mentioned a couple of times stereotypes and ways that Iran and Iranians turned out to be different from what you expected or what others might think. What do you think the greatest misconception about Iran and Iranians is?
Is about women, I mean. Because I think is the civil women rights. It is a problem. I mean, I know this is the discrimination, but the first time, or the second time I was in Iran, I asked my friend. She's a woman and a family, has a husband and 4 sons and so on. And we were walking around in Tehran, and suddenly I asked her, Mahanas, but don't you think there is a problem? We are spending all this time together, you and me, just alone all the day. And she was stared at me and said, what did you think we are in Saudi Arabia? And so I learned something about it. This is my. She was for job. She was a tourist guide, and I work for weeks away from house. I traveled. I studied. So what do you think about it? And I feel a little bit ignorant. I feel a little bit unfair with this question.
Have you? I mean that entirely makes sense. That despite not just stereotypes and despite the rigidly sort of anti-democratic laws that patriarchal laws that may exist around for women in Iran, that women, Iranian women themselves, are very strong and independent and empowered, as you say, at least the ones in the urban centers that we know. How have you seen Iranian society change in the last 15 years? It occurs to me that you've got an interesting perspective as somebody who's been going there regularly since 2005 and who has such an interest. How would you say things have changed either within Iran or for Iranians outside of Iran?
Well, firstly, I saw a big disillusion in my first travels. I mean, I saw people very tired about politics, about economy, during the Ahmadinejad years. And at the end of the time, it was a big fear in people. I mean, in 2012, I remember that all people that I met said, now in a couple of months, it began a new war with Israel. We are sure of this. All was a kind of darkness in the country in that moment. Then after the victory of President Rouhani, in almost suddenly, it changes everything. I remember that 2 years before I arrived in Tehran, and my phone didn't work, and no line for internet. The internet was very, very slow. In a couple of years, everything was changed. It was a big, great atmosphere of hope. And then after the nuclear deal. But in a sense, after another 2 or 3 years, another wave of delusion, another wave of sadness. People said, yes, but we hope something changed in everything, and the economy is low, in rights are slow, are changing very, very, very slow. Now, really, I don't know. I think that it's not an easy time to be Iranian.
Yeah. That is, in fact, let me just say, first of all, that it's been so great to talk to you. I love the story of how this passion has come to you, and I love all that you're doing in terms of your genuine interest that you're parlaying into educational and interesting different platforms that we can consume. Although it'd be helpful if some of us spoke Italian so I could understand all of your podcasts, but the ones in English I certainly have enjoyed. But let me end off with asking about where you think, just from your perspective, obviously these are things that you represent yourself on, but where you think things are going for Iran. You just spoke about disillusion. Probably the most common thing I've heard from Iranians within Iran or visiting there in the last couple of years certainly would be that between the sanctions and the dire situation of the economy, the coming of COVID, of course, and the damage that's done, and then the crackdown of the regime on democratic protests and shooting down airplanes and all of that there is a very dark and cynical, if not nihilistic view of a future for Iran. Where are you at on this? Are you hopeful for a more democratic and free Iran in this moment?
I am hopeful, but I'm not. I have a lot of fear. I fear that in the next 2 years, Iran had to face problems very, very, very hard, very, very big. I know there is a leader that is quite old. I don't know what will happen when he died. Mr. Khamenei. I think that the problem or the situation is there's another generation of religious politicians. And maybe it ended with these figures, with these leaders, with these politicians. But I see that after these politicians, there is the Pasdaran, there are the military forces, there are the army, not the regular army, but the Pasdaran, the Basij. And almost also in the famous tape from Mr. Zarif that in these days we are going to listen, there is this issue. What will happen after this first 22 years of Islamic Republic? I hope it will change in a democratic republic, in a real democratic system. And I think that in the civil society there are elements to hope for this, but there are also very, very powerful and dangerous enemies of a real democracy, because military forces are also economic power now. And I think that no one in the world wants to lose their interest and their power.
Antonello, I appreciate your perspective. I appreciate you sharing it with us. It's actually a great joy to get to talk to you. I hope I see you on a trip to Rome, and perhaps you can play tour guide and take me to Iran one day as well. I thank you so much for doing this today.
Omid Varam. Thanks to you.
Merci. Talk to you again. Kheli mamnoon. Khodafez.
Khodafez.
Thank you, sir. Antonello Sacchetti, an Italian writer, documentarian, and podcaster with a passion for all things Iran and Iranian. His website can be found at diruz.it, diruz.it for Italy. Antonello Sacchetti joined us from Rome, Italy today. All right. The microphone's back on for Groovy Shaya, the fabulous Keon. I will never not find the Italian accent charming. It is very charming. Yes. He's very charming, that man. Maybe the charm is amped up a little more when he's saying so many nice things about Iranians, but it's nice to hear. It's certainly a different picture of Iran than we get in some places, but a very rosy picture. I mean, he's very enthusiastic. I could see some Iranians sitting going, settle down, buddy. Yeah. We got our problems. What'd you think there, Keon?
Like you said, he's very charming, and it's very fascinating for me when someone that's not Iranian is so interested in our history and our culture, because like for us it makes sense. It's who we are, it's our blood. So when it's other cultures, when other cultures have such, like, this man, my God, that's such a dedication to learn about another culture. That's beautiful.
And somebody who comes from such a rich culture himself, it comes from an Italian culture.
Exactly. It made me realize, when you go to another country, you bring back a piece of that country with you. Nobody has had that opportunity to do that with Iran. The first chance they got was through Anthony Bourdain when he went to Iran and gave just a little glimpse of what it's like there. That it's
not nobody. I mean, there's a lot of. In fact, I always lament the fact, because I suspect it might be difficult for me, all the things I've said over the years, political things, whatever, to go to Iran, as so many of us talk about. I'm always actually jealous of non-Iranians, because I say, hey, you could probably go with impunity. It's not a big deal for you. And so someone like Antonello goes and can really experience. I mean, all the new things that are being built in Iran too, these boutique hotels and these beautiful gardens and these sites and stuff that, again, I mean, one always has to temper these idealistic visions of Iran with the difficulties as well. But he made me jealous of his regular trips to Iran.
He made me crave to go back to Iran.
And those of you who are listening in Iran right now, that you're lucky. You're lucky. Clearly, somebody like Antonello. It's also something that, other than, I mean, I was a really little kid, so I couldn't experience it. But other than before the revolution, it's something that Iranians around the world haven't experienced as much too in the last few decades. Where, to have people go to your country of ancestry and imagine being Italian. We have a lot of Italian friends, and here in Toronto is a huge Italian community. Right. They're constantly in the position of hearing, "Oh my God, I went on vacation to Capri, to Milan. It was amazing." They know how beautiful their homeland is.
But it's not to say that Iran is probably just as, if not more, beautiful.
But we don't have that experience of constantly hearing from people who are visiting it, because
it's a shame. Yeah, I hope one day that'll change.
That's the refrain. It keeps anyway. Very, very interesting. And for those of you, by the way, who do speak Italian. A lot of, almost all of Antonello's content is in Italian. He's carrying on these podcasts, speaking to Iranians in Italy who speak Italian, and so it's fascinating. Anyway, nice to have him on the program. Of course, your thoughts about him, post on any of our platforms or email us at info@rookmedia.com. Rojan Hooshyar, the fashion designer, the woman behind La Femme Roje, coming up in just a few moments from Vancouver. But first, it's Monday, and you know what that means. Letters of the week. I should explain. Reza has run out to deal with a technical issue, and so
Shaya couldn't even finish it.
So
He's
we're missing Reza. We've dreamt of the day where we don't have to hear Reza in this part segment, and yet now it feels so empty.
It just feels weird without it now.
What do we got, Kian? What do we got in the letters?
So, like I said last week, we released a 3-part series titled Assessing the Pahlavi Dynasty, 40 years after the death of the last Shah of Iran. So on that, we had Abbas Milani, Professor Abbas Milani, who wrote a few books on the Shah, as well as Andrew Scott Cooper.
One main book.
One main
called
book, The Shah, yes. Yeah. Andrew Scott Cooper, who was the writer of The Fall of Heaven, yes. And as well as Mohammed Amini, who's also a writer.
A historian and writer, yes.
That's right. So, as you can imagine, we have a few different opinions on that
and series. We should just explain, I mean, for people who didn't listen to the series, we invite you to. It's on all of our platforms, Assessing the Pahlavi Dynasty, on the occasion of the 40th anniversary. This year has been the 40th anniversary of the death of the last Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. These three historians have differing opinions.
Yeah.
And I guess that's reflected in the letters.
That's right. Yeah. So, first off, we have a Masoud Faqihi wrote, "Best analysis and an honest discussion and interview. Thanks, and hope you do more interviews like this."
Thank you, Masoud.
Thank you. And then we have Tina Baruti wrote, "In love with Rook. Fantastic job."
Nice. Thank you, Tina.
And then we have a Mustafa Noor wrote, "Abbas Milani was a Maoist who was imprisoned during the Pahlavi era for being part of a militant group that wanted to overthrow the Shah. Abbas Milani forgot to mention that out of the goodwill of the Shah on his birthday, he pardoned Abbas Milani and released him from jail. The ungratefulness shows still today. I thought you should know the background before diving into everything he says." Right, I've heard this opinion before. It's
Thank you, Mustafa, for your feedback.
Right, and then we have a Steve Sohanaki wrote, "More podcasts on this topic, please."
Okay, what does that mean? We just keep doing the Pahlavis over and over again. I guess we could, but there's lots to talk about. All right, well, thank you, Steve.
That's Sohanaki, by the way.
Sohanaki?
Sohanaki.
Okay. My apologies. And then we have someone that created a username just to write this message. It's a username titled "Propaganda Fake News Must Buzz Off." So he or she, I believe it's a he, wrote, "I do respect and appreciate you, Sir Andrew Scott Cooper. Oh. Thanks for your honesty. Unlike those other Persian language speakers who have no Persian blood and only speak the language. We Iranians are shameful to have such people like them among us. They spread lies to us about our lovely Shah. But as the Shah has mentioned in his last interview, Persians are smart people, and they'll find out the truth. And now we know our enemies aren't foreigners. It's those so-called fake open-minded people such as Milani and Amini, and shame on them. From a 24-year-old guy who lives in Tehran, Iran. Special thanks to the Rook Team, by the way." Thank you.
Right. Special thanks to the Rook Team at the end there. Put it there after that letter.
Yeah. But that means something for someone to write this from Tehran, Iran. Like that's the thing with history. You have to read it a few different times from a few different people to get the true nature of what really happened. It's still hard to say,
Well, there's different perspectives.
Right.
This person has a perspective. I love that. Thank you. I guess maybe you didn't feel comfortable giving us your name, but
of course not.
Thank you for writing to us from Tehran, giving your perspective. I will also say, Abbas Milani's been on the show a couple of times. Every time he's on, lots of people tune in, and lots of people really, really like him. So we do get a diversity of opinion about Professor Milani, and I guess that's natural.
Yeah.
There you go. And his Shah book is, of course, a big
found
seller, not
balanced.
just outside of Iran, but inside Iran.
That's right.
In Farsi.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Then look at that. It's time for the letter of the week.
No.
Woo!
Why does it sound like there's so few people? We're only missing Reza. Yeah, letter of the week.
So this week's letter of the week goes to a Zoya Katuli. She wrote, "I enjoyed all 3 episodes of the series and even listened to them a few times each. Very informative. 3 different perspectives on the Pahlavi Dynasty. As an Iranian living outside of Iran for over a quarter of a decade and being young at the time of the revolution and having lived during the Shah's regime when I was a teenager, it brought me such sweet and sad memories. Well done, Jian. Wish we had more on this topic."
Wow, that's Very a great listened a few times each to that. Thank you so much for that, Zoya. And thank you. That's lovely. I appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who's written in. I know we got a bunch of other mail. We'll try to get to it in the coming days. Keep posting on our platforms. Our email is, again, info@rookmedia.com. Thank you to Zoya for the letter of the week. Zoya.
Yes.
For the letter of the week. And thank you to Fabulous Kian and Groovy Shaya and Captain Reza in absentia. Right. Well, my next guest today is an Iranian-Canadian fashion designer, stylist, and entrepreneur who combines Iranian and Middle Eastern designs with modern and sustainable materials to show the Western world what she says is the true power and uniqueness of Middle Eastern women. Rojan Hooshyar was born and raised in Tehran. She started her education in management, receiving her master's from the University of Tehran, and later got a certificate in shoe and bag design and pattern making from Arsutoria School in Italy. Rojan catapulted into the world of fashion by founding La Femme Roje in 2013, starting with a successful collection of handcrafted shoes in Tehran and then expanding to accessories and clothes. Since then, La Femme Roje has also taken pride in becoming a vegan brand and emphasizes sustainability and ethical business. After moving to Vancouver in 2016, Rojan enlarged her market through North America and Europe. She's now distributing her designs and products in Iran, Canada, the US, Germany, UAE, and Kuwait. Rojan's work and brand have been featured in Harper's Bazaar, Lucy's, Creators, amongst others, and have also been part of fashion shows and events in Italy, Canada, and Iran. And right now, the woman behind La Femme Roje, Rojan Hooshyar, joins me from Vancouver today. Hello.
Hi, Jian. How are you?
I'm very happy to have you on the program. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you so much, and thanks for this opportunity.
You know, no disrespect to the beautiful city of Vancouver, where I have spent a lot of time in my life, but it seems a bit counterintuitive as the place to run a burgeoning fashion empire from. We might think of Paris or Milan or New York. What do you like about basing yourself in Vancouver?
It's not about that. My immigration plan to Canada was just a family choice, and it doesn't anything, it wasn't related to my business. But I don't think, location and where you're physically based matters anymore, because we're in an area of internet, and this gives us, the chance and opportunity to be in touch with any part of the world. So it doesn't even matter where you live. Just people in Vancouver, they seem a little bit boring, but I find them very caring about what they wear and what they actually would buy, because they know what exactly conscious purchasing means. And it is really important for me. So it is a good place for me because it is really related to my brand. Right. I am having, a sustainable vegan brand.
I'm going to get to that. So you don't have any angst. I'm not in Milan where all the action is happening and I need to be there for my brand, etc.
نه به نظر من you can shine everywhere. اگه بخوای and you should set goals for it. I am always passionate about my work, and I love what I do. So I have a steady source of motivations. So that drives me to do my best. So wherever I am, in Vancouver, in Milan, in Paris, in London, obviously I want to be there. It is true. Yeah, I love New York. I love London. I love Milan. I can shine everywhere. So
that said, you are in Canada, and you've talked about what you see as minimalism in Canadian fashion, and how you intend to create some excitement in that mix. Tell me what minimalism in fashion means.
So let me tell you one thing about differences between fashion in Canada and Iran. I just talk about it. It might surprise you, but Iranian fashion scene in Iran has been really outstanding and overwhelming and powerful. So we have a lot of creative, fashion photographers, fashion designers, stylists, models, female models, male models, and their works are really stunning. So I am Iranian و منم از همونجا اومدم و this competition there is really demanding, and people taste in fashion is really unique. I mean, it is amazing. While here in Canada, minimalism is just the key. They want to be, simple. That's it. Simple, classy. So I think I can dedicate my brand, hopefully, to have a little bit impact, to add a little bit, sparks and anything like excitement to this Canadian fashion. So I think I can do that because, they need it. They really need it with Persian and Middle Eastern patterns, this colorful patterns, this colorful, everything. So میشه این تغییرات رو با این Middle Eastern touch ها داد به نظرم.
It's funny because when you talk about, it's long been a stereotype as long for my whole life pretty much being in Canada that we are very simple when it comes to fashion, but I wasn't sure if that's just, an unfair stereotype about Canadians or if that's true. You're saying it is true. What does simple mean? Like Canadians don't want to stand out. They gravitate towards something a little more conservative, I guess, compared to...
Yeah, exactly. They don't even want to, break the rules in fashion. They just want to be very simple and classy. Like میدونی مثلا همشون دوست دارن یه برندایی مثل لولولمن و اریتسیا بپوشن که انگار they just have a uniform. That's it.
Right. Lululemon and Aritzia are big Canadian, but it's true. Now it's interesting. I want to get to the scene in Iran that you just talked about. Take me back to being there as a kid. First of all, you were a kid in Tehran who used to dress up in your mom's high heels and fabulous outfits. Tell me about Rojan, the neighbor who saw you at one point and asked you to adjust the dress and sparked your imagination for getting into fashion.
Yeah. So back in Tehran, when I was, I think, 7 or 8 years old. We had a kind neighbor. She was really, really professional tailor. So I was always obsessed with my mom's fashionable, clothes and dresses and high heels. And I was always in love with high heels. So I would wear them everywhere, all around the house, walking through hallways and everywhere. So I knew that I couldn't wear it outside because they were really big for me. So I can remember one day she saw me playing all around the hallway, and she told me that she can help me and she could adjust the dress for me. And I was like, oh my God, really? Okay. So she took me to her place. So she just showed me, how to adjust and how to do the rest, how to, do everything, and how tailoring works. So it was really cool and fun for me. And she showed me her, she had a box عجیبی داشت. It was like a box of strings and buttons, and it was really cool for me. And for that exciting thing, I was really obsessed. So از همون روز اون اصلا childhood memory من شد و اون زن از اونجا رفت. ولی خب این همیشه سیمین جون واسه من یه رول مدل بود.
Even though the neighbor left, she left that impression on you.
Yeah, exactly. That is true. Yeah.
So was it possible that as an 8-year-old in Tehran, would you even have thought at that point that this could be my career? Did you think that I'm going to be a fashion designer, or did it just sort of pique your interest a little bit?
ببین همیشه I was in love with headpieces and high heels. ولی I would draw on my mom's heels like with a wide up pen, and I was always like drawing on them on her dresses and everything. But مامان من همیشه میگفت نه تو باید حتما مدیر شی، دکتر شی، مهندس شی. یه چیزی که همه مامان باباها میگن back in Tehran. Right. We have it. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. You say I'm just going to translate for the folks that you're saying your mom would say that you should definitely become a doctor or something like that. But it sounds like you were a very stylish kid and a teenager.
Yeah.
And I thought your parents were artistic. That they sort of enabled you going into a non-traditional stream like fashion, as opposed to the pressures of middle or upper class Persian kids to be a doctor or something like that.
Art has been part of our family always, because my father, he is a professional calligrapher, but he's doing it as his hobby. And my mother, she is always fashionable and classy. She's like همیشه کت دامن کت شلوار بپوشه، خیلی درسای کلاسی بپوشه. And I was always inspired by her and by my father's art. So this Persian poetry که می نوشتشون و my mother's sense of fashion, it was really amazing. So growing up, I always change up my regular clothes and shoes. و همیشه I was always get a lot of compliment for my styles and the ability to mix and match everything together, because همیشه دوست داشتم هدپیس عجیب بذارم یا لباسامو عجیب با هم میکس و مچ کنم. So my looks were always different. So they were always weird and uncommon. Most of my friends, they kept telling me to just take this passion really, really seriously, and take this as just go for it and turn it into something bigger. This is how La Femme Roje just I've launched it, and this is how La Femme Roje was born.
You've really mastered the art of bicultural speech, where you just slip into Farsi and English throughout the conversation.
I'm sorry.
We're just assuming that everybody understands both, but that's okay. Most of our listeners around the world do. That's absolutely fine. You talk about launching the La Femme Roje in Tehran in 2013, and I want you to. You talked a few moments ago about the nature of the vibrant nature of the fashion scene in Iran. Paint a picture for us, Rojan, of that fashion scene. You've talked about the stereotypes that people will have about contemporary Iran and how it's actually a very stylish or fashion-forward place. How hard is it, though? Really, to successfully launch a new fashion brand in Iran when the public expression of individuality in clothing, especially for women, is suppressed? That you kind of have to do this underground to a certain extent, no?
Not that much honestly. برای اینکه اگه بخوام میدونی long story short بهت یه چیز کوتاه بگم, the fashion industry in Iran had its own renaissance after US sanctions. So we had, lack of import, and the very high expenses of clothing from outside resulted in textile industries and designers to try, to meet the needs of the society.
Interesting.
Through Instagram, they just made their platforms like Instagram, Facebook, their own website. Also, we have many fashion enthusiasts. They've been going to, Milan, Rome, Paris, London, New York, everywhere, like me, Vancouver, etc., to study fashion or fashion design or fashion marketing. And in this past few years, many of them, they are really talented. These talented boys and girls, they just came back to their home country, back in Tehran, and they launched their own brands. And it is amazing today. These designers, they're creating, art pieces. I mean art pieces, because they represent Persian elements and Middle Eastern elements and everything, patterns along with Western trends. So من واقعا I'm more than proud که I am a Persian designer, برای اینکه we are really different and talented, and we know we know what we want to exactly do, and we're just looking for an opportunity to do the better, to do our best.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting. Let me take what you've said one at a time, because you've said so many interesting things there. First of all, you're not the first person to come on here and say that there is this renaissance. I mean, Bahar Islami, who was on just a month ago, talked about the same thing. This renaissance in fashion design and local designers in Iran. You're the first person who's mentioned this thing about the sanctions. It makes sense to me, but it's fascinating. So what you're saying is, despite the fact that the new set of sanctions that came in with the Trump administration, despite the fact that they may have devastated the economy and led to inflation and some difficulties in many sectors, what it also did, though, was created the conditions where, for example, in the fashion industry, there needed to be indigenous work done. There needed to be local Iranian designers to fill the space of the stuff that wasn't being imported anymore. And so inadvertently, this was a boon to young designers, and there's been this renaissance, you're saying, huh?
Yeah, that's true. میدونی they became stronger, برای اینکه دیگه نمیتونستی کاری بکنی و خودمون پروداکشن رو انجام دادیم از صفر تا صد، یعنی از material, fabric, everything to production, to tailoring, everything
had to suddenly be done in Iran. That is so interesting. But now explain to me, just because I'm not someone, you have a production team in Tehran still. You're back and forth there. To explain to somebody who doesn't go to Iran like me or can't, how do I understand this private-public paradox? I mean, like I do know that in private parties in Iran, for example, people are much more chic than they will ever be here, but that's not necessarily the case in public, or it cannot be. You can't wear a short skirt and high heels on a subway in Tehran. So how as a designer do you plan around that?
نمیدونم، احساس میکنم خیلی به این موضوع ربط نداره، برای اینکه انقدر پروداکشن تو ایران قوی شده و فورس ورکرها، حالا تیلورها، شومیکرها، everyone، همه ایمپلویا و استافا آردی میدونن این سیچویشن و کاندیشنی که توش هستن رو، همه با هم کنار هم خیلی خوب دارن مثل یه تیم ورک کار میکنن و اینا رو درست میکنن. درسته، that's right که we can't wear like mini skirt and short dress. Valley, we have like long coats, oversized long coats که الان اصلا ترند شده oversized clothes. So همه اون ترند رو دارن دنبال میکنن and اونا چنج کردن اون سیچویشن رو از این ور به اون ور و انقدر خوب تونستن این دایورسیتی رو ایجاد کنن این ایران که هیچ فرقی نمیکنه. یعنی honestly هر کسی که میره ایران واقعا به نظر من انقدر آدم خوب و خوشتیپ میبینه که هیچ جای دنیا like in Paris and New York فقط تو میتونی ببینی.
Right. Well, that's really interesting to me. And again, I know you're not doing anything wrong and you're living within the rules, but I can't figure out necessarily what the government there decides is cool and not cool. I mean, certainly when it comes to music, for example, I know that there's some people who can't put their music out and others who can, and they decide this music's okay, this isn't. Is there ever a time when the government comes after somebody like you, or gives you a warning, or says you don't design this kind of thing, or do you ever get that kind of warning, or are they completely hands off?
Not really. فقط یه چیز جالب، من واسه یه هفته دفاع مقدس تو ایران one time یه کفش درست کردم، یهو out of like همین جوری گفتم let's do something different و نشون بده که who the real fashion designers in Iran are. So I made a like an army boot که پشتش I made 2 تا بال گنده با plexiglass و اینو اتچ کردم به این آرمی بوته و از آرت پیس فرستادم توی این نمایشگاهه و من شاید باورت نشه برام یه تقدیرنامه خیلی بزرگ فرستادن and they were shocked که مثلا ما همچنین فشن دیزاینرایی داریم با همچنین آیدیاهایی و میتونن این کارا رو بکنن. به نظر من این تناقضه شاید داره کم کم درست میشه و بهتر میشه، ولی به من honestly تا حالا هیچ مشکلی نخوردم، اتفاقی نیفتاده. Thank God.
That's good to hear. You moved to Canada in 2016 and you have successfully expanded your business. You now have staff, as I mentioned, not just in Vancouver but also in Tehran. Why let me take some elements of what you do one at a time. First of all, why is it important for you to weave Eastern elements into your designs? I mean, you could presumably, even if you want to create exciting and crazy, interesting new designs, they don't necessarily have to be Middle Eastern, but you've made a point of that. Tell me why. My biggest dream was always, to combine this Iranian and Middle Eastern fashion with modern and sustainable elements and materials. So this love to, this creativity in the world of fashion, so made me to think more, just, to encourage my audiences, my customers to make more, kind of cruelty-free, sustainable fashion choices and products, and also show the Western world, this Eastern woman that they are really empowered, stylish and inspiring. So I think با این Eastern elements and designs من یه excitement و joy ایجاد میکنم توی Western design of products. Do you feel like, Rojan, I don't know if it's just because I've become aware of them or not, but I feel like all of a sudden I'm seeing more of what you're doing, not just from you, but other designers that are bringing Middle Eastern or Iranian styles to Western clothing. Are you seeing that as well, or am I imagining that?
Yeah. No, yeah, that's true. You know why? Let me tell you a story. Always when people picture Iran and Middle East, they have a false image because, it looks like and feels like, it is everything is black, everything is dark.
Right.
But yeah. The first thing I am aiming to do, exactly my brand, is just to change this image and show them how diverse and colorful Middle East is. Persian art, architecture, culture, poetry, they are fascinating in the world, and I want to combine this beautiful cultural heritage with this modernity and innovation in Western world. They should know more about it. I think we should raise their awareness. It is really important for me. And I think it's good to just expand their knowledge because especially in fashion industry here back in Tehran, in Iran. So I think من به شخصه میتونم dedicate کنم برندم رو تو این زمینه و واقعا نشون بدم به Western world اون ایمیج واقعی ایران و خاورمیانه رو که انقدر قشنگه، انقدر کالرفوله، انقدر دایورسیتی توش زیاده.
You put an emphasis on what is called slow fashion. which is, I imagine, the opposite of fast fashion, which is, and I happen to know about fast fashion. I once did a little short documentary on it. That's the term for inexpensive clothing produced rapidly by mass market retailers, usually in response to the latest trends. They figure out what the latest trend is, then they make this cheap clothing in a mass market way. How do you take steps to engage in the opposite of that, in slow fashion?
So, first of all, let me tell you about fast fashion. Fast fashion is fashion that, moves quickly from runway to consumer. That's it. And, and then after that, to landfill. So some stores, as you see, they change the entire inventory and their windows in every 2 weeks, and it's ridiculous. So the whole process in fashion industry, like, dyeing, washing, ironing, cutting, sewing, everything for clothes is a labor and resource intensive process. So this constant production of fast fashion industry, it is really harmful, not only for environment, but also it is really harmful for people who works in it. I was learning more about, world of fashion and fashion industry when I was, starting this career. So I thought it is unethical. So most of these big brands and high-end brands in fashion industry, they don't even care how much negative impact they're making on nature, on environment, on their workforces, and even on people's mental health. We have size 0, we have size 2. So it is funny, it is ridiculous.
So how do you avoid that? How do you do this?
Exactly. This triangle of designer, manufacturer, and buyers. So I thought it would be really good for me to just, in La Femme Roje, we are trying to support artisans and local tailoring artists, shoemakers, workforces, employees, and also we are trying to encourage our customers to make more ethical fashion choices. just to میدونی فکر کنن خرید کنن. اگر یه لباسی میخری فکر کنی که بتونی بیشتر از 5 بار این رو ستایل کنی و بپوشیش با
to think about it at the time of buying it, to actually think about whether you're going to be using this more than once, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that's why we are producing only one collection per year, and each collection has its own story. That's it. So I think I am trying to just raise the awareness and expand the knowledge of people to understand what they are doing. I think the concept of La Femme Roje is based on supporting artisans and environment. We are really honestly eager to stay as a slow fashion sustainable brand. So it is something that we are absolutely proud of, because the main priority is to produce less products, slow made high quality products that would last many years, که انقدر بمونه که تو نخوای اینو هی سری برگردونی به لندفیل و like این fast fashion و چرخش باعث شه روز به روز بیشتر شه.
Where does the veganism come in? Because I understand the sustainability piece, but and I can see how you're going to tie in ethical eating, in terms of the environment or doing things, ethically. But tell me when it was that you knew you wanted to work in the vegan part into your designs and into your production.
So دوباره یه ذره فارسی حرف بزنم، راحت صحبت کنم. ویگن بودن پارتی از سستینبیلیتیه. سستینبیلیتی از 3 بخش ایجاد میشه. یکی اینکه مثلا اکو فرندلی باشی، ویگن فشن یا گرین فشن، و اینی که فیر پیمنت داشته باشی به پرسونلت. اکو فرندلی فشن یعنی اینکه تو به انوایرمنتت کمتر آسیب برسونی، از ماشینالات کمتری استفاده بکنی، و اینکه کارگاه‌ها و فکتوریز تا جای ممکن نزدیک باشه به محل زندگی پرسونل. Vegan fashion and green fashion means که تو از پروداکت های استفاده کنی که مثلا فر توش نباشه، leather، جینین leather توش نباشه، به جاش بیای از vegan leather استفاده کنی یا چیزی رو جایگزین کنی که it's like leatherیه که از ماشروم به دست میاد، از چوب پنبه به دست میاد.
Mushroom. There's mushroom leather?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I am using mushroom leather, for my shoes,
For your shoe? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and the third one was که تو fair payment داشته باشی واسه یه پرسونلت. همیشه پرسونلت راضی باشن. ولی I think fashion industry is beginning to change its practices because in my point of view, consumers are putting pressure on brands to be more transparent. With supply.
Well, I was going to ask you about how much it becomes a selling point. I mean, on the face of it, Rojan, it would seem like it's challenging. Like it's completely laudable. I love you for wanting to take this on, but you know, starting your own business in general within the last 10 years, as you have, is a challenge. Moving to Vancouver, you're building a fashion brand. So you've got all the challenges of, you know, the industry and making your name known and, you know, getting your designs out there and the production and the distribution and the advertising. All of that is already there. Then you add on the piece where we want to do this locally, and we want to do this handmade, and then you want to do this in slow fashion style. You want to be environmentally sound. You want to be vegan. I mean, I'm sure that there's people around you, business people, who have said, you're crazy. Why are you trying to do all of this? You know, at least let go of a couple of these things, you know, maybe put aside the vegan thing for a few years until you build a brand more. What do you say to them?
You know what? I am ambitious and I'm passionate about my work, and I do whatever I can do to just achieve my goals. Most of the people around me, especially my friends and my parents, they're always telling me that you would lose most of your customers, audiences, and consumers, and your sale would decrease significantly and whatever. But I think I am the one who is dedicating the brand. If you look at Stella McCartney, she is my role model in fashion. She has my favorite vegan brand, and her brand is Stella McCartney as well. She started her own fashion label and business, and she faced a lot of backlash. And, she was like, oh my God, what is happening? When she left Chloe and she started her own brand as well, and she didn't even care. She just called out all the famous brands, for the harm they were making and they were doing on environment. So her impact now is really significant and is significantly visible and huge. So this is where I want exactly to be, and میخوام همینجا برسم. چرا من نشم؟ چرا من استلا مکارتنی 2 نباشم؟ We can do whatever we want to. Yeah.
Why are you so driven? No, it's great. How did you but why do you think you're so passionate? You're so ambitious.
I don't know. I'm crazy. I think I am crazy.
Do you really think you're crazy?
Yeah. I think I am really crazy because I'm working 24 hours a day. Because of the different time zone that we have in Iran. So I should work with Iran from 9 p.m. Till 3 or 4 a.m. every single day, and then from 10:30 a.m. again to 5 p.m. here in Canada, Vancouver. Wow. I should work with my team. I have a lot of meetings. I have a lot of things to do. So I don't know. I think I'm just ambitious and driven.
Do you worry about balance of life? How do you make sure that
work-life balance?
Yes.
No, I should work on it.
Do you have time to work out? Do you have time to go for a rollerblade in beautiful Vancouver?
Yeah, thank God. I have Farinaz Lari. She is one of my best friends here. So اگه نداشتمش که اصلا نمیتونم بگم. Farinaz Lari, she is amazing. من همه ورزشامو باهاش هفته 3-4 بار میکنم. آره.
Do you go to her gym?
Yeah.
Wow. She's fabulous. That's great. You guys have found each other there.
Yeah. So نه میرسم به همه کارم، ولی خب I think I'm workaholic. برای اینکه I don't know, I'm passionate about my work. فکر میکنم باید حتما تاثیرگذار باشم همه جای دنیا. So it is crazy, yeah.
Where do you want La Femme Roje to be in 10 years from now?
Oh, I don't know. I think hopefully I want to just getting more global recognition, and then just to be able to just have more physical stores, especially in New York, London, and Paris, maybe. And I don't know, to showcase my upcoming collections in again in London, Paris, New York. Yeah. Because they're ultimate home of fashion, so yeah.
It sounds very doable for you. You're going to do that, and you're going to do more. What? It's such a pleasure getting to talk to you. What is your message? I think even though you're relatively young yourself, I mean you're becoming this real role model. What is your message to other fashion designers, or perhaps other young fashion designers from Iran or the Middle East? What would you say to them if they aspire to go into this line of work?
Just one thing. Just break the rules in fashion. Be creative. That's it.
I love it. Rojan Jan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go do some kickboxing with Farinaz Alari. And
thank you so much.
And congratulations.
It was my pleasure as well.
Congratulations on all the success you've had, and we'll look forward to you doing more. We'll get everybody wearing La Femme Roje clothing, and hope to see you in person before too long.
Thank you so much, and thanks for this opportunity, Jian Jan.
Khodafis.
Khodafis.
Roshan Hushyar, founder of La Femme Roje. She is an Iranian-Canadian fashion designer, stylist, and entrepreneur. She combines Iranian and Middle Eastern designs with modern and sustainable elements and materials. Roshan Hushyar joined me from Vancouver, Canada today. How about that, Shaya?
I like Rojan. Actually,
you know Rojan
yes.
from your Vancouver days?
No, actually, from my Tehran's days.
Oh, really?
She was my piano student, actually. I taught her piano.
Wow, you did such a good job of teaching her piano that she went into fashion.
That's true. Yeah.
I thought you knew her because of Vancouver, because you spent some time in Vancouver.
Interestingly, in Vancouver, I suddenly saw her. I didn't know that she was in Vancouver.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I love that she trains with Farinaz Alari. All of the Rook guests coming together, and And by the way, if you haven't listened to the Farinaz Alari interview, it was our second interview ever, back to April of 2020. Check that out. Anyway, very lovely to have Rojan on the show. And she just couldn't stop speaking Persian. She just kept, I was like, ترجمه میکردم برمیگرد فارسی ولی خیلی هم خوب بود. I kind of enjoy that she's so comfortable speaking a Qati version of a mixed version of English and Farsi. It's really fun. Good luck to her, and we'll be looking at what's coming next from La Femme Roje. Check her out at her site, La Femme Roje. This is Full Time for Rook for today, Thursday, Nima Nozeri. You don't want to miss that. Remember, for all things Rook, you can go to our website, rookmedia.com. rookmedia.com, where you can hit the Support Us button and become a patron of Rook. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together. Producer Susan, Ponta the artist, Thoughtful Nagin, the fabulous Kian, Savvy Roham, Aghay Mehrdad, Master Muhammad, Captain Reza, Groovy Shaya, and our buddy Shahram. Thank you to all of you out there supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you've not done so already on any of our platforms. That is free. And you can find me on Instagram at Jian Gomeshi. And you can find us all on Clubhouse at Rook Media. In the meantime, Mizun Bashi.